Hello everyone. In the previous video, we talked about Hoor and Ayn, and we talked about the root of that word, and we said what it meant. In this video, I want to give you another example, and that is the word Hawariyun. Hawariyun in the Quran is referred to the disciples of Jesus Christ, son of Maryam, the promised Messiah. So the disciples, the 12 disciples, were called Hawariyun in the Quran. Now, if you look at the books of tafsir and various translations, and also the commentaries, they have said that the reason why they call them Hawariyun is because it's like they were wearing white clothes or something like that. Yeah, it's just like, let me just show you, right? And me giving you an opinion on obviously, you all know what I think about those things. But let me explain to you what this word actually means and why it has that meaning. So as I have mentioned before, what is the root of Hawariyun? It's ha, wa, ra. So it's the root of it is ha wa ra. In Arabic you write it like this, ha wa ra, which turns into what? Turns into hara, because there is an I don't want to go into the grammar of it, but this wav turns into an aleph and it becomes hara. Okay, hawara becomes hara. Okay, I don't want to make it complicated by going into Arabic grammar at all. But so that's what it means. I said, what does that mean? The meaning is when you have been somewhere, right? When you are in the position A, you leave, that's your original position. You leave this position, you go to position B, you have left A, and hawara is when you actually come back to your original position. So Quran actually gives us an example. Dhanna innahu dhanna an lan yahur. He supposed, he thought, he assumed that he would never return to us. What is he talking about? It's talking about humanity. It's like we created you here in heaven, created Adam and Eve here. All of you were with Adam and Eve. Genetic material was all there. We sent you down to earth, and then later on, future generations, they thought they would never return to their original position. So if A stands for heaven and B stands for earth, we left heaven, we came to earth, and Dhanna and Lan, they thought they would never return. Dhanna and Lan Yahud, but we will return in the day of judgment, right? So that's what it means. So with Hawariyun, it's based on the root of fa'al in Arabic. So if there is this thing called fa'al, weight of fa'al, fa'al has a tashdid. So fa'al means something that does that action of that verb a lot. So fa'al does the action of the fa'al a lot. So the same way, havara, when you put it under this way, again, I'm trying to simplify Arabic grammar. I'm not going to go into all those fancy terms to show off or anything. But when you put that in the way, it becomes hawar, on the weight of fa'al. Hawar, on the weight of fa'al. It means someone who does the action of havara a lot. So hawar is someone who does the action of havara a lot. Hawra, which is the singular of Hoor, is a device, a vehicle, a being that does the action of havara. Something that takes you somewhere, transportation device that takes you from point A to B and returns you to your original place, always returns to you, goes and returns, like you get in your cars, you go to your work and you return, you go to your school and you return. Now hawar is a person that, or a thing that does this action a lot. So what I'm trying to say is that in the old days, the culture was the culture of apprenticeship, or you were true students, true disciples. You had a master, and you would constantly, let's say M stands for our master, right? So these are students. So I'm gonna tell student number 1, student number 2, student number 3. So these students were around these master, and they were constantly going to their master. They were asking questions. They would go home. And this was a cycle that was constantly repeating itself. And again, same thing with the student number 2, and the same thing with the student number 3, right? You would go to your master, you would ask your questions, and you would do your homework, and tomorrow you come back, you ask your question, you learn more, and then you go back, and you're like, yeah, I was studying this verse or this chapter, I didn't understand. You go back to them and you ask your question. So you become a hawar. It means someone that is constantly returning to their master. So these were Hawariyun of who? Hawariyun of Jesus Christ, son of Maryam. It means they were constantly going to Jesus, who in this case was their master, and they were asking their questions, they were learning, they were devoted disciples, they were loyal students, they were returning students. It means the students that often, constantly are returning to their masters to learn more knowledge, to learn more wisdom. So all these 12 of them, and I can go on and on, put S4, S5. So that was the student, and that's why Allah in the Quran calls them Hawariyun. So because they gave up their lives, they gave up their homes to go around their master, who was Jesus Christ, son of Maryam, and they were constantly surrounding him and were with him, going back. Wherever they would go, they would come back to him. They would leave, go to that city, but they would always come back to him. Their lives revolved around Jesus Christ, son of Maryam. So that's what it means. I'm giving you these examples. I'm hoping there are some wise people who understand these things, because they have butchered the true meaning of verses in the Quran, the true meanings of chapters, of concepts. And this Hoor and Ayn, first of all, they have done a tahrif, they have changed it to Hoor al-Ayn. That is not an al-Ayn. The alif lam is never in the Quran. Al-Ayn means the eye, whereas the Hoor doesn't have that. It's Ayn. You write it like that. So they have the way they have changed these things. It's unbelievable. This is the way Satan, Lucifer, Iblis, Akbar, our enemy, acts. It mixes the concepts, confuses the concepts, and changes the true meanings of them. It has nothing to do with it. The word hawara has been used in the Quran for so many verses. So I have gone through all the examples of it. Please watch the 3 past videos about Hoor and Ayn, part 1 and then part 2, and also this one. Now, whenever you read a verse where this word of the root of hawara or hara is used, now you know what it means. It's very simple, and Quran is designed in a way that Quran itself, the book itself, gives you the meaning of those verses. Anything controversial that you can think of, Quran makes it clear. The meaning of that word or the other verses, they make it very clear so you understand, so you never get lost. That's why Allah says in the Quran that there is no crookedness in this. However, what happened is that the Syrian Arabic compared to the Southern Arabic, the Arabic version of Petra, they were different. So they, after the Umayyads took control, they managed to dictate their own religion based on various meanings, based on playing with different meanings of the word. I'm not going to go into that, but I hope you learned the meaning of Hawariyun at this point. Peace and blessings to all the true believers.